मामले को सीबीआई के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है।
After Rail Mantri recommends CBI probe, mega India Today news break quakes India. Sabotage angle under sharp focus. Resignation GVs demands Vaishnav's resignation.
The Congress minister, I remember, said, "It is my responsibility the train is crashed, I am resigning."
Who should be held accountable? Top focus on 5 Live.
Three days of coverage, but where's the accountability? 275 people have died, but there's still no one stepping forward and taking responsibility. There are no names, there is no position, there is no designation, there is no office that has been named, and yet we've got so many facts because all of them have been first here on India Today. Well, today we're going to go out on a limb and try and assign blame for what happened. We will take names, we will take positions, we will assign accountability today on India Today. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'm Shiv. These are the headlines. 2 days after meeting Home Minister Amit Shah, top wrestling faces of the protest, Vinesh Fogart, Sakshi Malik and Bajrang Punia join government duties, says will continue satyagrah along with their protest. UP gangster Mukhtar Ansari gets life imprisonment. He's been found guilty of the Avdesh Rai murder. Incredible sloth of justice. 32 years after the murder, he's been convicted. Southeast Railway account books access. No spending on anti-collision systems in 3 years. Out of 943 crore rupees sanctioned, no money was spent. Rahul Gandhi attacks Modi government in New York over Odisha train tragedy, says Modi driving the car of India, looking at the rearview mirror. Congress Mantri resigned last time a tragedy happened.
The Congress party did not get up and say, now it is the fault of the British that the train has crashed. No, the Congress minister, I remember, said, "It is my responsibility the train has crashed, I am resigning."
Former Pakistan Army chief heckled in France. General Qamar Javed Bajwa is attacked by an Afghan local in Paris, called a murderer and a spreader of jihad.
तो अफगानिस्तान जहाद करेगी
यार मैं नहीं हो यार चीज नहीं हो भाई आप वीडियो ना बनाए मैं भी पुलिस को बुलाता हूँ
पुलिस तक बुलाओ बुलाओ पुलिस को बुलाओ
There's no end to the politics around the Odisha train crash, and in some ways that is a good thing. We are a democracy. The questions need to be answered, as the opposition is completely within its rights to ask all of the big questions that India Today has first been asking. Moments after the rail minister sought a CBI probe, the opposition has escalated its attack, called it nothing but eyewash and an attempt to prevaricate over the ghastly nature of what has just happened. Mallikarjun Kharge, president of the Congress party, has shot off a letter to the Prime Minister questioning the serious lapses. But can any amount of politics bring back those 275 lives lost in the crash? Watch this report and then we start taking names.
A horrific tragedy and massive politics around it. The Narendra Modi government under fire over the Odisha train tragedy that claimed over 270 lives is getting the CBI to investigate the accident.
जिस सिचुएशन में ये दुर्घटना हुई है और जो परिस्थितियां हैं उन सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए जो कुछ अब तक का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है उस सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे की इंक्वायरी के लिए, आगे के इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए इस केस को, इस पूरे मामले को सीबीआई के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है।
The CBI probe indicates criminality or, in simple terms, the possibility of sabotage. The opposition is not convinced. They are calling it a political gimmick.
प्रधानमंत्री गए, वहां मोदी मोदी के नारे लगे, हमने देखा। रेलवे मंत्री वहां उड़ीसा के हैं। 3 ट्रेनों का टकराना। सुरक्षा कवच की बात की थी, सुरक्षा कवच नहीं। छोटे मोटे आश्वासन देते हैं, बड़ी बड़ी बातें करते हैं। बुलेट ट्रेन, ये ट्रेन, वो ट्रेन, हाई स्पीड ट्रेन।
Congress chief Mallikarjun Kharge has shot off a letter to Prime Minister Modi questioning the lack of focus on strengthening the railways at the basic level. He also pointed to the NIA investigation into a train derailment in Kanpur that killed 150 people in 2016. The investigation had not proved any conspiracy. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has hit out at the centre and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, citing how ministers quit after tragic mishaps during Congress rule.
I remember a train accident when the Congress party was in power. The Congress party did not get up and say, now it is the fault of the British that the train has crashed. No. The Congress minister, I remember, said, it is my responsibility the train has crashed, I'm resigning.
The BJP was quick to strike back at the Congress.
We don't need certificate of Rahul Gandhi. This Rahul Gandhi has the phobia of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And while he wants to hate Modi, I don't mind, because his nature is like that. But वो मोदी को द्वेष करते करते वो इतना भ्रमित हो गया है, वो देश को ही द्वेष कर रहा है. He is hating the India itself.
The BJP has rallied behind Vaishnav, referring to his 50-hour marathon monitoring of rescue, relief and restoration work. Bureau Report, India Today.
The member of the Railway Board, Jaya Verma Sinha, who gave a presentation to the Prime Minister on the Odisha accident, now explains what exactly happened. She was exclusively on India Today after meeting the Prime Minister.
There were 2 trains actually coming towards this station. One from this direction. This was Coromandel Express. This was coming from Howrah, Shalimar actually. And this was coming from Bangalore. This is the Yashwantpur Express. Right. This was going towards Kolkata and this was coming from Kolkata. And this train there are signals in advance which tell the driver that which is the route he is going to get. So if he is supposed to take the upline main line, then he gets a green signal which allows him to go at his maximum speed. If he is to go to the loop line, then he gets the yellow which tells him that you have to go at a slower speed.
Right. So at the time when the train was passing here, both these signals, what is this signal called, ma'am? The outer signal?
It's called a
distance signal, and this signal is called
the home signal.
Home signal. So both the distance signal and the home signal are how far away from each other?
They are nearly a kilometer away.
Okay. So both were green at that time?
Yes, both were green at that point of time because the route was set for the main line, and even this starter which allows the train to go into the block section, what you call the block section, was also green. So the route was set for a non-stop pass-through this station.
Okay.
So the driver understands this and they go at their maximum permissible speed.
So ma'am, when a goods train is kept on the loop line, I'm sure the station master is well aware of the train which is there stationary and which ones are passing and which ones are not.
Oh yes, yes.
And therefore when this Coromandel Express passes from here, Why does it move over here into the loop?
That we don't know. That whether it actually went on the loop or whether something happened here and then the derailment made it get onto this area and the other areas, because it was at a very, very high speed. It was at a high speed, and at that high speed, if some mishap happens on whatever reason, the kind of disruption to the entire area is so huge that you can't really make out whether the train moved this way or it was going this way and it derailed and the impact led it to climb here. That will all come out in the detailed inquiry. There are a lot of forensic and other things are involved. From whatever we have seen from the data logger inputs, data logger is a record of what happened during that period. There was no signaling error apparently. These signals were green, the route was set for the main line, and the driver was following the appropriate speed and the signal instructions. So apparently there was no error at this level. However, this mishap has occurred. So there is a possibility that there was some kind of a problem in this area. With what exactly, that will come out of the inquiry. But certainly something was wrong in this area which caused this accident and a major chaos.
Ma'am, also the rail minister said that it's something to do with the electronic interlocker. Now, what is an electronic interlocker?
Interlocking. Yeah. Electronic interlocking in simple terms is means to ensure that all your signaling is actually reflecting the status of the path that has been set for the train. So,
for example?
For example, if there is obstruction on this line, then this signal cannot turn green. That's an interlocking. So the logic is built in such a way that if this section is blocked, it will appear as red for the track from the track circuit that is there. There's a track circuit running along here.
So what is a track circuit?
It's a simple electric mechanism through which a very low voltage current is passed here, and it actually detects the presence of any kind of a vehicle over the line. This is called a point where you can actually move this point and decide which route the train can take. If the point is set for normal, then the route is for moving straight, and if the point is what we call set for reverse, then it is set like this, and the route will go like this, and then the locomotive and the train will go like this. This kind of an incident is not directly related to Kavach, because Kavach is normally for the line on which the train is supposed to move. There is equipment in the loco and there is equipment in the ground which communicate to each other, and the loco is able to sense whether there is any obstruction on the path it has been given. And in case it discovers there is an obstruction on the same route that it is supposed to take, then brakes are applied automatically. In this particular case, and that happens when the train has adequate distance to apply its brakes. So this was moving at 130 kmph, and this was hardly a 100-meter stretch. So if there was any obstruction here, there was not adequate time for the loco's brake to effectively stop the train. There is no technology available which can suddenly stop a train which is moving at such a high speed.
Ma'am, have you totally ruled out the sabotage angle in this area yet?
No, nothing has been ruled out, and in fact you might be aware that a CBI inquiry is being ordered into this area. They will ascertain whether there was any other angle to the thing or not.
So you've seen what the Railway Board knows and what they don't know. They've also not ruled out the sabotage angle. They don't know how and whether the Coromandel Express went into that loop line. So there are many very crucial missing pieces of this puzzle. And yet, accountability can already be fixed, because India Today has accessed the pink books of the Southeast Railway Zone, which shows zero Viewer, listen to my words very carefully. Zero expenditure on train collision systems in the last 3 years. The Southeastern Railways have spent 0 rupees on anti-collision systems in the last 3 years. Data access shows how budget was allocated nearly 1,000 crore rupees, but was never really spent or not spent at all. Take a look at this data. 780 crore rupees was sanctioned for the year 2020-21. No money spent. 162 crore rupees sanctioned in 2021-22. No money spent. Zero. This is data till March 2022 for the Southeast Railway. That makes a total of about 940 crore rupees sanctioned by the government for the Southeast Railway, and not a penny has been spent on anti-collision systems, which is very much supposed to happen. Ritik Mandal, one of the first journalists on site in Balasore when the accident happened, is still on site, and India Today will not be moving from this story anytime soon until accountability is fixed. Is with me live once again from Balasore. Ritik, the railway minister has called for a CBI inquiry. The rail board, has just illustrated in a most detailed manner what may have gone wrong. They have not ruled out the sabotage angle as well. What are you picking up from the ground? In what direction is the investigation headed this time, Ritik?
Well, currently we are waiting, for CBI team to arrive at the, accident spot, and we are being told that any moments from now, the team of CBI officials will be reaching to the accident spot, and definitely during today we did see several officials of Railway Safety Board. They inquired into this matter, and now all angles are now heading towards the probing agencies and of course the probing angles. There are many more things yet to there are many more things which are unanswered. Shape one, the role of the station master who was in charge on that day of the station, who was in controlling the relay room of that controlling panel, because it comes at a very it plays a very good important role. Now what we also can see currently, what is the situation is on ground zero, Shiv, that both the lines, down and up lines have been restored. Movements of passengers and goods trains are continuously going on since this morning on both the tracks. Simultaneously, Shiv, what we can see that the restoration works are underway on the loop lines, but the drivers have been instructed to take the trains on this particular section of the Balasore's division at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. So it looks like that many more things happening at a time when restorations works are underway, and the probing agencies, simultaneously the Railway Safety Board and the central agency CBI, to step in the probing issues, and there are many more things, many more officials and many more people related to matter are yet to questions by these probing agencies. Back to you.
Okay, Ritik, thanks very much for getting us that update, which means that the investigation is headed towards assigning that accountability, and in a moment from now we'll be taking some of those big questions and those hard accountability elements also as part of our coverage, because India Today, the only channel that is reporting the facts without any silly hyperbole like many of our competitors. Now, I want to show you what the data about train accidents has looked like for the last 4 decades. Just take a look at this data, viewer. Between 1980 and 1990, 10 years, there have been a total of 475 collisions, a total of 6,242 derailments, crossing accidents about 677, and train fires have amounted to about 176. That's a total of 7,570. Now let's get to the next decade. Between 1990 and 2000, there have been 309 collisions, there have been 3,137 derailments, crossing accidents have taken place. There have been about 596, fires 68, total 4,110, so significantly lower decade on decade. Now let's go to the next decade, 2000 to 2010. There have been 135 collisions, 1,680 derailments, 803 crossing accidents, 93 fires, total of 2,700 accidents. 2010 to 2022, that's about 12 years. Take a look at the data. 50 collisions, 631 derailments, 354 crossing accidents, 62 fires, a total of just under 1,100 accidents. So if you look at the trend, viewer, it's been coming down steadily over the years. That doesn't mean that each accident isn't unacceptable and something that needs to be condemned, and the core reason for it needs to be arrived at as quickly as possible, but that is just to give you a sense of how things have actually become a whole lot safer if you compare it to earlier. Now, the restoration work, like Ritik was pointing out, is over. It took 51 hours to get the work done, and trains are finally running back on the tracks. Ritik Mondal visited the state control room in Balasore for a full laydown on how all of this works. It's difficult. Those bogies needed to be moved, the tracks needed to be tested, and then trains can finally ply. Here's how it all came together.
Senior officials of railway, they have arrived at the Bahanagar railway station and they have visited the station master room, and what we can show you that currently this is the particular, the panel where this how the system runs, and this you can see these are the tracks which are being controlled by the station authority. It has two separate main line. These are the main lines where this main accident, the collision between a passenger train and a goods train happened, and these are those two those loop line, in which one of which on this particular track that that goods train was standing and that Coromandel Express was coming from this direction, and suddenly it got entered to the loop line wrongfully and then collided with the train, and on the other way another passenger train was running. So this is the situation. We can see, we can show you that this is the particular panel is being controlled, and this is the actual fact that what exactly is happening here.
Well, all that's left behind are over 200 families of the 275 people who lost their lives. Families in need of dire assistance in taking back their loved ones home. So far, 151 bodies have been identified. All bodies, after due process, are being handed over for transfer to their destinations. My colleague Apurva with this ground report.
An eerie silence dawns even as bodies keep piling up here at AIIMS Bhubaneswar mortuary here where we are at, and as you can see, bodies that are being handed over back to the families. Victims, all of them who had died at the Balasore train accident. Police there who are verifying the process as well. All of these bodies that have been kept here at the AIIMS Bhubaneswar hospital are bodies that have been unverified bodies, all of them that police are trying to trace and track back to the families of the loved ones who have arrived here. We're here at the help desk, which is also being set up. All verification process that is being done by Bhubaneswar police to ensure that the families of the victims can arrive here, seek answers for the questions, and also take back their loved ones as well. Ambulances, as you can see right behind me, being piled up. All of these ambulances that are on standby here for families of the victims, with intense regularization and with the intense kind of screening that the police officials also have to deal with. Definitely a Herculean task for them, as they have to identify the victims, identify the families of the victims, and also ensure that they be able to safely return back the mortal remains of once loved ones back to their family. With video journalist Chandu, Apurva Jayachandran, India Today.
The dead, the survivors, the grieving, the families, and then there are the heroes, the locals of Odisha's Balasore, who were the first to rush to everyone's rescue when the horrific triple train collision happened on Friday. From pulling out multiple bodies to providing medical help to the injured to donating blood, these brave hearts have been recalling some of their experiences of that fateful night. And let's not forget their trauma as well. Take a look at this report as we pay tribute to Balasore's brave hearts.
Overturned coaches, lifeless bodies, injured passengers all around. India's worst train tragedy in more than 2 decades struck Odisha on Friday. Amid blood and death all over, the residents of Balasore emerged as heroes. The people of this sprawling northern Odisha city emerged as the first respondent in a catastrophic tragedy. Hundreds rushed to the accident site immediately after the mishap.
बहुत जोर से आवाज हुआ, मैं उनके पास गया और बहुत आदमी मर चुके था, डेथ हो गया था बहुत आदमी का, और जिंदा भी था। जिंदा जो आदमी को एम्बुलेंस हॉस्पिटल भेजा, ठीक है। वो और ट्रैक्टर में हम लोग दोस्त थे, तो उनके एक बगी से बहुत लोगों मर गया था। वो 8 आदमी डेथ हो गया और 2 आदमी जिंदा था।
Using the faint flashlights of their mobile phones, the residents made their way into the badly mangled coaches. Pulling out injured, offering them first aid, rushing them to hospital.
जब इस तरह की स्थिति हो गई थी और अंदर लोग चीखते चिल्लाते हुए लोगों को सहायता के लिए बुला रहे थे, तब आप लोग अंदर गए कंपार्टमेंट के?
जी, कंपार्टमेंट के अंदर गए। अपन 8 लोग थे। अपन 8 लोग थे। अब जो मृत हो चुके थे उनसे तो अपनी निगाह
स्पॉट डेड लोग मिले।
स्पॉट डेड लोग भी मिले। कुछ गंभीर रूप से घायल थे। उनको ज्यादा चोटें सर में आई थी। किसी का धड़ अलग था, किसी का सर अलग था, किसी का शरीर सेमी पार्ट ही गायब था, किसी का पैर ही गायब था। इस तरह के
भयंकर दृश्य,
छत बिछत सौ हम लोगों ने देखा वहाँ पे।
तो आप लोगों ने अपने हाथों से निकाला शवों को?
जी, हाथों से निकाला।
और जो लोग जिंदा बच के मतलब ज्यादा जख्मी नहीं हुए थे, उनको भी आप लोगों ने हेल्प किया निकलने में?
जी, उनको हम लोगों ने बस स्टैंड तक भेजा अपनी टीम की मदद से।
Providing a helping hand to cops and fire brigade officials and eventually disaster response teams. Hundreds of Balasore's brave hearts stayed put throughout the night and on Saturday aiding the rescue operation and helping rail officials.
का मालगाड़ी बहुत मालगाड़ी था,
यानी 4 नंबर ट्रैक जो है वहाँ पर एक मालगाड़ी था
और 5 नंबर में
उस तरफ, यानी बिल्कुल आउटर सेक्शन में
तार पछ नांगटा पछपट अछि जणे
यहाँ से और एक ट्रेन गुजर गया।
जणे माने ये नीलाबाना जो वो था और यहाँ पे वो ट्रेन आया एक्सप्रेस, ये भाग गया और वो ट्रेन आया। हम इधर से बात करते कथा था, हम 2 जन हमारा लेबर में बसु, वो ट्रेन आया जो मालगाड़ी ना तो ऊपर डायरेक्ट चढ़ गया।
Offering food and water to stranded passengers, rescue workers and officials amid sweltering summer heat. Thanks to these good Samaritans, hundreds of lives were saved from the mangled wreckage of the bogies. Hundreds of Balasore and other cities of Odisha residents flocked to blood banks and hospitals to donate blood for the accident victims. Long queues were seen outside blood banks as people patiently waited for their turn. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the courage and compassion of the people and their selfless rescue work, saying thank you Odisha.
मैं उड़ीसा सरकार का भी, यहाँ के प्रशासन के सभी अधिकारियों का, जिन्होंने जिस तरह से इस परिस्थिति में अपने पास जो भी संसाधन थे लोगों की मदद करने का प्रयास किया, मैं यहाँ के नागरिकों का भी हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूँ।
In the darkest moment, the people of Balasore shined with exemplary courage and selflessness. With Indrajit Kundu and Satyajit in Balasore, Odisha, Bureau Report, India Today.
Amidst the blood and death of the Odisha train accident has been the familiar echo from several political parties calling for the resignation of the railway minister of the country. To us here in India, these calls for resignations every time a tragedy or a scam takes place is very familiar, isn't it? Train accident, minister must resign. Ministry has mishandled funds, minister must take responsibility and step down. All parties and all netas have done it at one time or another. If you look hard enough, every big political leader at one point or another has demanded the resignation of a sitting government leader. Right now, everyone from Mamata Banerjee to Rahul Gandhi are calling for the resignation of the railway minister. At one time or the other, every neta becomes a resignation GV, smacking their lips and crying for someone's istifa. One BJP leader, remember Ravi Shankar Prasad, he became the patron saint of these resignation GVs. Not only was he calling for resignations when he was in the opposition, the habit was so firmly entrenched, he was calling for resignations of rivals even when he became a minister. But this is a serious issue, it's not a joke. And having established that this is a bipartisan disease, this resignation GV, allow me to offer my 2 bits. For one thing, stop this resignation nonsense. Ministers are elected representatives. They are chosen by the people, and if a tragedy or a scam takes place, the people would like to see these ministers pay for their neglect or corruption, unceremoniously discharged from their ministership if necessary, and if applicable, acted against as per the law of the land. Moral responsibility sounds deep and meaningful, but it is useless, viewer. Shallow escape route for politicians. Would you rather a minister take moral responsibility and resign and not face anything? Or would you rather that he stay, do his or her job to fix what they messed up on and fail to stop, and then stay on in the hot seat to face the music? In this country of ours, where irony is a daily affair, the same netas roaring for the resignation of the railway minister are understandably silent following the collapse of a bridge in Bihar the very next day. Well, amidst Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's active efforts to be an opposition unity magnet, nobody wants to step out of line and demand Nitish's resignation. Do the same standards not apply? But my point, as you've no doubt heard, is different. Neither should resign, not Ashwini Vaishnav and not Nitish Kumar. Both must be held to account. Both must be made to fix what has happened on their watch, because nobody can deny that the buck stops with them. Remember that calls for resignation also give those in power a chance to divert by playing victim and blaming the accuser of playing politics. Ravi Shankar Prasad made demands for resignation so famous and farcical that the act of doing so was reduced to an internet meme. Even now people make fun of him. And please, the country doesn't need more resignation GVs. What it does need is unsparing pressure for accountability. And getting back to our news breaks now, let's get you the very latest that we're bringing to you. Airfares are zooming after the Odisha train accident. The Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has just chaired a meeting on surge pricing, predatory pricing by airliners in the country. Minister Scindia says airlines must self-monitor fares and control prices, especially at a time of a humanitarian crisis when people are trying to get desperately from one place to another. Let's go straight across to India Today's Nagarjun Dwarkanath for more on this. Naga, crisis time is always a time when, airlines usually try and make a quick buck. Civil Aviation Minister cracking the whip now in the wake of the Odisha tragedy.
Well, that is true, Shiv. The minister himself has spoken to all the heads of the airline, asking them to monitor the ticket prices. Of late, what we are seeing when we go to any website to book our tickets, we are at the Odisha route, we are seeing a surge prices. Bangalore, Odisha used to be around, or Delhi, Odisha used to be somewhere around 5,000 to 7,000 in that bracket. But of late, after the train accident, where many people are reaching to Odisha and coming out of Odisha, the tickets have shot up more than 20,000 in certain cases. Hence, the minister has spoken to all the heads of the airline industry, saying that they have to keep a check in the prices and also monitor the prices regularly. And not just that, but also the freight charges, the cargo charges, moving the mortal remains of the families at free of cost, as the airlines have to come for the help of people during the dire times, is what the minister has said. And he has got a positive response from the airlines, is what we are told. The airlines will definitely keep a tab on the reservation chart and also the pricing cap.
Naga, thanks very much for getting us that latest. That'll be a piece of relief for those looking with consternation and worry at the huge costs of air tickets these days in several places. Civil Aviation Minister stepping in. We'll keep our viewers updated on that very important story now. Introducing the most viral video of the day, viewer. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's all over the internet, but you are going to see it here on India Today in just a moment. In case you haven't recognized the guy in the blue t-shirt there, that is former Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa. Well, he's retired and he's peacefully holidaying in France with his wife, except that someone locally recognized who he was and decided to take matter into his own hands. This is embarrassing. Now remember, India Today does not endorse heckling or attacks of any kind, but this really sends out a message about the state of Pakistan and the country's international reputation, including its highest military officer at one point of time. Take a look at this.
General Qamar Bajwa heckled. Former Pakistan Army Chief and his wife were in Annecy, an alpine town in France, where an Afghan civilian hurled expletives at the couple. In the clip, which went viral on social media, a man can be heard abusing General Bajwa and his wife in Pashto, a language widely spoken in Afghanistan. General Bajwa threatened to hand the angry man over to the police, but he did not budge and continued to hurl abuses at him. The heckler accused General Bajwa of human rights violations and misconduct. He blamed the former army chief for aiding the Taliban in destroying Afghanistan.
For 40 years they've been betrayed by name of jihad, and the other face, when we're seeing the political or the politician of the Pakistan, they dress up with like Western people, and also they are look like Western people. They not look like anything like the jihadis or Muslim or anything like that. This is an innocent Afghan asking for his right, and why he has done it to his family possibly.
Pakistan provided financial and logistical support to the Taliban during the US war. They played a key role in installing a hardline regime in Kabul after the US withdrawal. It's a gamble that is boomeranging. The sympathizers of Taliban are carrying out attacks on Pakistani soil, leading friction between Islamabad and Kabul. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, the person who was heckling General Qamar Javed Bajwa was an Afghan immigrant who lives in France. You could hear the anger in the voice as he continued to rain expletives and anger at General Bajwa. There is a lot of history there between Afghanistan and Pakistan that you saw in that tiny little clip that's gone completely viral. But that rage and that anger in many ways is perhaps understandable. And I want to get you a voice of someone from Afghanistan. Nilofer Ayubi is joining me live from Warsaw, Poland. She happens to be an Afghan journalist in exile. She lives in Poland just now. Nilofer, thank you very much for your time and for speaking to India Today. You know, we're all watching this video clip, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, Nilofer, of the Pakistan, former army chief being heckled, being shouted at, being abused by this Afghan local, an unidentified Afghan, person in France. What do you make of it? How do you explain it, Nilofer? What are your sentiments?
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, if you ask me as an Afghan individual, as somebody who is currently in exile and had to leave everything behind because of the Taliban takeover, and of course because there was a huge help and support and involvement by the Pakistan government and especially Pakistani military. As an Afghan, I think any one of us would be giving the same treatment to Pakistan officials who are involved in the current state of Afghanistan. But as an activist and as a human rights defenders, I think it was inappropriate, especially when the family was with him, and we do not endorse or encourage any such acts against an individual and their families, especially when they're not in their position, right?
Yes.
But overall, if you take it, you know, it's the karma. It's what you do and what you get. When you send 40 million people into chaos, into poverty, into war, and then a lot of us, like 6-7 millions of us, was forced in exile and now living away from our home. We weren't even able to carry our own stuff. We had to. You remember the airport scene in Afghanistan. So apparently this man, my Afghan brother, he has gone through the same humiliation and through the same pain, and that's what you see in this video.
Yes.
And he's clearly stating the facts that for 20 years you sponsored Taliban against us, you sent terror to us, you endorsed Sharia and jihad upon us while you and your family casually vacationing in Paris. And what you see him talking about the appearance or the clothes or the attires his daughter is wearing, which I'm very happy that he did not video the children, because they have nothing to do with this. But this is quite frustrating when you see this. Of course, this frustration goes way deep down into any Afghan heart and soul, but we do not endorse such behaviors.
Niloufar, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being so honest. I agree with you that, you know, heckling is not something we should endorse, especially with a family there, but there is a history to what this is. This is not just meaningless anger. There is a background to this anger, and it comes really from the bottom of people's hearts. And that's the reason why we've decided to even show this story. We very much appreciate your time, Niloufar. Stay safe. Thank you very much for being with us here on India Today.
Thank you so much.
And now let's tell you a little bit about someone who is in contention for the Republican presidential candidacy in the United States. We are familiar with her here in India. It's Nikki Haley, a former governor who now wants to be a presidential candidate. Except she's put out a tweet just now talking about how if we want to take on pollution in the world, then we must confront India and China, two of the world's biggest polluters. That's what Nikki Haley has just said on her Twitter account, and it hasn't gone down well at all. If we want to be serious about saving the environment, we need to confront India and China. They are some of the biggest polluters, says Nikki Haley, senator and high-profile contender for the Republican presidential candidate. Haley is of Indian origin, as everyone knows, and usually has a stance that can be interpreted as, well, pro-India. We know that Haley has pronounced anti-China views, but this tweet of hers, where she clubs India and China as the world's worst pollution offenders, doesn't quite have any legs. For starters, when it comes to absolute emissions, the United States is the world's #2 polluter, only behind China and way ahead of India and other countries. In terms of per capita emissions, which is a much more accurate index of any country's contribution to global pollution, the United States, viewer, is by far the #1 polluter on earth, outstripping other top nations by miles. India isn't even in the top 10 of the world's biggest per capita polluters. Now, obviously, none of this is to suggest that India isn't a polluter. As a rising power and an exploding population that we have, this country has enormous pollution-related challenges to address, while balancing the aggressive needs of development and modernization. But that doesn't mean India should stand around and accept being a punching bag for a presidential ticket hopeful in the United States, should it? The Indian-American community is not only one of the most influential in the US, but also one of the most crucial in several parts of the United States. If Nikki Haley is interested in a real discussion on pollution, she should consider dehyphenating India and China, getting real. Maybe Haley has bunged India into her tweet about China in an effort to offset her own Indianness. I can only guess, because as a global superpower, the United States has often positioned itself as a leader in international affairs. Nikki Haley's time would be better spent then questioning US environmental policies and actions and Washington's commitment to global environmental responsibilities, especially since it is the US that has withdrawn from international agreements like the Paris Agreement and failed to meet emission reduction targets. If Nikki Haley wants to be taken seriously on pollution, she can feel free to confront India, but if she doesn't also confront the United States, then her credibility will be much like America's own when it comes to being a global environmental police.